We're truly honored to have you with us this Veterans Day. My name is ALLAN. I'm the chair of the Buncombe County Veterans Council, one of the sponsors of today's ceremony, along with the City of Asheville and the Charles George VA. As a veteran community, we have been through a lot in the last 8 months, coping with the COVID-19 virus. We hope and pray that you stay well and be safe. Today's ceremony is about honoring every veteran who has served their country in war or peacetime. Thank you for your sacrifices to keep our freedom. Please remember, freedom is not free. The national anthem will be sung by Rick Ledford, United States Marine Corps, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Ted Minnick, U.S. Army, Vietnam.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first presenter will be Stephanie Young, Director, Charles George VA Medical Center, Asheville, North Carolina, one of the best VAs in the country. We, the veterans of Western North Carolina, are truly blessed to have Charles George VA Medical Center as our healthcare provider.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us. More than 100 years ago today, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, the guns fell silent in Europe. The armistice, Indian World War I, the Great War, the war to end all wars, was signed. November 11th was originally named Armistice Day, and it only honored veterans of the First World War. In 1954, after World War II, in the Korean War, it was renamed to Veterans Day, and it honored all veterans that served America in the defense of democracy. Over the years, Veterans Day has evolved, and so have the VA medical facilities that care for veterans. Throughout my career, I've been blessed to work for an organization that has the distinction of caring for Americans' heroes, and to work alongside the truly dedicated staff who are committed to our mission. Charles George VA Medical Center the parent facility of the Western North Carolina VA healthcare system, has been here for over 100 years, serving veterans in Western North Carolina. And since 2007, we are proud to bear the namesake of a veteran who gave the ultimate sacrifice in service to his country. Private First Class George was a full-blooded Cherokee Indian from the Bird Clan of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. In 1951, he deployed to Korea in the 45th Infantry Division and was killed in action on November 20th, 1952, while attempting to protect fellow soldiers from an enemy grenade. And I just want to take just a quick second to reflect on that moment in time. Mr. PERKAL said, the ultimate sacrifice. Military men and women, when they signed up for the military, sign a blank check for up to any amount to include life itself. The ultimate sacrifice. At that moment in time, Private First Class George did not hesitate to protect his fellow soldiers. He warned one, he pushed another out of the way, and he knew the consequences as he jumped on that grenade to protect his fellow soldiers in service to his country. He paid the ultimate sacrifice. In 1954, Private First Class George was posthumously awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. We have a statue of Private First Class George in front of our organization, and I hope that Private First Class George is proud of the care we provide veterans. Charles George VA, along with our 3 community-based outpatient clinics in Franklin, Hickory, and Rutherford County, proudly provide care to 47,000 veterans across the 23 counties of Western North Carolina. Simply put, we serve those who have served. It is the reason why we exist. In fact, about 1/3 of our staff members are veterans. We're here to provide exceptional care to veterans and ensuring that they reach their optimal health and well-being. This may mean something different to each veteran, and our purpose is to ensure that we focus on veterans who partner with us for care. Even during the challenges of COVID-19, we work every day to afford our veterans the highest merit they are due. That includes different ways to do business during this pandemic: video appointments, drive-up pharmacy pickup, scheduled labs, virtual check-in, extra high-touch cleaning, and staff and veteran screening are some changes that we have implemented to ensure the safety and streamlined flow for care. We recently entered phase 2 of our Moving Forward plan to gradually allow more veterans to return to face-to-face in-person visits. Our hope is that we will be here for another 100 years, providing the same quality care to the men and women who have given so much of themselves to protect our way of life. It is a privilege and an honor to repay our country's debt of gratitude to those who were there when we needed them the most. It is a privilege to represent a grateful nation in delivering to veterans the program and services they have earned. And we pledge never, never to forget the sacrifices our veterans have so selflessly made for us and for our posterity. Thank you for your service to our great nation and for entrusting us with the honor of taking care of Americans' veterans. May God bless us all.
Thank you, Director Young. We're honored today to have as our keynote speaker P.J. Moore, M.D., 100-year-old World War II surgeon who took care of the battle wounded who lost their limbs during the Battle of the Bulge. Dr. Moore is probably one of the last surviving surgeons of World War II. We usually do not hear from the doctors who took care of us, the wounded. His story is one of honor, duty, and country. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce you to P.J. Moore, M.D.
Thank you, Alan. It is a great honor for me to address you today in honoring our veterans and especially those that have given their primary and complete sacrifice for their country. You can't comprehend how honored I feel to address you today. Thank you. It would be like all the veterans that have served in their country. I would also like to take this opportunity to recognize my Creator God, the one who endowed me with my principles and with my capabilities, and I want to thank him. My years as an Army surgeon, operating on those who were wounded and lose limbs, formed the background of my life as a surgeon in civilian life for more than 60 years. War is hell, and we saw a lot of that in the combat soldiers that I took care of. I would like to take you on a little journey back about 78 years. Oh, by the way, Sergeant PERKAL wanted to be sure that I did not wander around and tell a whole lot of stories and lose my place. So he did not say, would you like to read this speech? He said, you will read this speech. So with you recognizing that I'm going to be reading, please appreciate that. In 1942, during my junior year in medical school at Loma Linda University School of Medicine in California, the entire junior class of 84 were drafted into the military. And I'm sure that was the same situation that applied to all the other various medical schools in the United States. At our school, we had a regular military lieutenant colonel who was in charge, and we had all the appropriate military officers and personnel to administer the military unit at our school. We had to wear GI clothes. We had to perform marches and drills and do all the things that were specified by the military. After our senior year, which was cut short by 6 months by not observing the 2 summer vacations, we held a graduation in December of 1944 rather than 43 rather than June of 44. We then went into our internships. Now, internships customarily consist of rotation of several different specialties like eyes, ears, nose, and throat, cardiology, GI tract, bones, whatever, so that we could determine which specialty we were interested in. After our senior year, which was cut short by 6 months due to not observing 2 summer vacations, we held our graduation in December of 43 rather than June of 44. In January 1944 to September of 1944, I served a straight surgical internship rather than the usual rotation. I think that this may have been part of the reason, leading by God, to choose that to become a surgeon. In Carlisle Barracks, the Army Field Training School, there were 1,200 of us new doctors there, and I was the only one that was chosen to go to the military hospital in Chamblee, North Carolina, Chamblee, Georgia, near Atlanta. While we were on our internship, we were on inactive duty, and as soon as the internship was completed, we were returned to active duty. After the internship, I spent 6 weeks at the Gardner General Hospital in Chicago, followed by another 6 weeks at the Army Field Service School in Carlisle Barracks, where it was about 10 below zero, kind of hard on a country boy. Lawson General Hospital was one of 3 amputee centers in the United States during World War II. And during World War II, 15,000 required amputations. 90% of them were taken care of in amputee centers. There were 5 of us surgeons doing surgery at the Lawson General Hospital. I was responsible for a 34-bed ward filled with amputees from the Battle of the Bulge. December 44 to January 45, the deadliest battle of World War II. 20,000 killed, 47,000 wounded, 23,000 missing in action. These wounded GIs had limbs blown off or field amputations for various reasons. So all of them required reamputation when I got back to Lawson General. When we took off their bandages or their casts, the stumps were in various stages of roughness and or infections and required cleaning and reamputations, except for those that had maggots. Maggots ate all the pus, and the wounds were completely clean. And incidentally, that is a recognized treatment, and the proper term is allantoin. So if you have bad infections with a lot of pus, and you can order a culture of maggots where it will clean up their infection. I learned quickly that amputated stumps needed very careful repair. shaped and closed so that there were no bumps or irregularities that might cause pain while they were wearing their prosthesis. I was extremely careful to prepare the stumps with the proper amount of covering, the nerves cut to avoid pain, and the skin sutured very carefully to have a smooth surface. To assure the men that they had a good stump, I would handle those stumps roughly. Now, not brutally, but roughly enough for them to know that the stumps were going to be pain-free when they got their prosthesis. When soldiers were healed and discharged to civilian life, the Army flew plane loads of amputees back to keep our beds full. During my time at Lawson, one soldier comes to my mind and remains a cherished memory. He was a single, young, 22-year-old double amputee that was part of a plane load assigned to my ward. I was surprised to learn that he was from my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina. His condition was quite challenging, as he had his right lower extremity blown off above the knee, and that constituted a problem. I had to re-amputate and shape it so that the amputated lump or stump was able to not only handle the prosthesis, but also a prosthesis that had a built-in knee joint in it. I had a little procedure of showing the amputee patients by hand drawings just what was entailed in doing their work, and that led to a lot of questions and answers. Now, this gentleman had his left leg blown off just below the knee joint, so that I was allowed to save about a half an inch of the bone below that joint. That was very important in helping him handle the prosthesis, both of them. The prosthetic department did a great job forming the prosthesis to fit under that half inch of bone and leave that joint intact. This was the only one of the amputees that I took care of that was that close to the knee joint and required extra effort to give him a functioning knee, created a much more personal relationship than the routine amputee. And by having that joint made a world of difference in how he could handle his two legs and getting around much easier with the two prostheses. The determination to save that joint was well worth all the time and effort that I put into it. He was so pleased with my effort that he confided to me that he was planning to go back to Spartanburg and try to get into local politics. And I regret that I never heard how his efforts turned out. Many people have mentioned that they thought Lawson would be a sad or depressing place to work. But we did everything we could to keep up a happy atmosphere. We would laugh, tell jokes, celebrate success in the completion of rehab, all we could think of to show the men that they could lead a successful civilian life with a good, confident attitude, and that they could be healthy adults entering civilian life, able to lead a pain-free life, would be getting married, having a job, having a family. I was the only surgeon that I know of who would take carloads of amputees to the golf course and show them that they could participate in recreational activities, not feel helplessly disabled. Also, the surrounding community rallied around Lawson by visiting with patients and inviting them into their home to comfort and entertain the amputees, helping them get through a difficult time. The community was an important part of their healing legacy. While at Lawson General, I operated every day except Saturday and Sunday, for the entire year of 1945, January to December. Usually there was more than one case every day. The Lord blessed me with a clean record, no post-op wound infections. By December of 45, the flow of amputees was slowing down, so I was transferred to the surgical staff of the 161st General Hospital in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And it was at this hospital that I met my wife, Dora Dean Crumley, later known as Dee Moore. She was a wonderful lady, an Ohio farm girl that had taken the nurse's training and then volunteered for military service. She was stationed at 161st General Hospital also. And it took a few months, but eventually we were committed to each other. That's another reason to think how the Lord blessed me in my efforts. Well, we were to return in September or October of 46 to the States to be separated from the service, and we were going to fly out on a DC-3. We left about 8 p.m., and after we had attained an altitude of around 3,000 feet, the right engine caught on fire. We dropped about 2,000 feet, and everybody thought this was going to be it. But the pilot was able to regain control of the plane, and we landed safely. Another reason the Lord took care of us. Our second trip out was successful, and I was separated from service at Fort Bragg, North Carolina in October of 46. My marriage to Dee Moore produced 5 wonderful children, 10 grandchildren, 10 great-grandchildren. Of the 5 children, 2 are doctors, one's a dentist, one is a university math professor, and one is a certified nurse assistant, anesthetist. After 57 loving years of marriage, in 2005, Dee passed away of complications from Alzheimer's. But God has continued to bless me with a second marriage in 2008 to another wonderful nurse, Elaine Twomley Waldo. Elaine was previously married for 51 years to a veteran who served in the Korean War. He passed away from heart problems. Elaine and I deeply love each other, and we've embraced each other's families. God has been so good to us. In closing, what does honor, duty, country mean to me? Well, I'm proud of our country. I'm proud to be a citizen of the USA. And I'm proud to be a veteran of that country. And I'm proud of all the other veterans that have not only served with distinction, some of them have given their ultimate sacrifice. I truly appreciate those of you listening to me today and honoring me. I would like to salute all veterans today. Thank all of you for choosing to honor veterans today and showing your support of our heroes, past and present. I want to also thank the Lord for his looking after us, and may he continue to bless all of us. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Moore, for that inspiring an educational speech today. In honor of Dr. Moore, I am pleased to welcome City of Asheville Mayor Esther E. Manheimer.
Good morning. It's my honor and pleasure to be here today for this Veterans Day ceremony and to honor Dr. Moore. I have a proclamation in his honor and I will read it now. Whereas on November 11th, 2020, Veterans Day, we come together to honor the 100th birthday of P.J. Moore, MD. And whereas P.J. Moore, MD, was drafted in the Army 1943 and served as a surgeon at Lawson Army Hospital outside of Atlanta, Georgia. Dr. Moore operated on soldiers who had lost their limbs. He also taught golf to his patients as a way to help them through their long road to recovery. And whereas P.J. Moore, MD, continued his medical career in civilian life for the next 70 years after his military service, he retired as the oldest active surgeon in North Carolina at the age of 96 in 2016. And whereas P.J. Moore, MD, delivered more than 1,000 babies and performed more than 30,000 surgeries throughout his career. And whereas Dr. Moore, in 2011, was honored by Governor Beverly Perdue with the Order of the Longleaf Pine for his exemplary service to the community, for going above and beyond the call of duty and making a significant impact in strengthening Western North Carolina for more than 50 years. And whereas P.J. Moore, MD, devoted family member, 5 children, 10 grandchildren, 10 great-grandchildren, and his loving wife, Elaine. Now therefore I, Esther E. Manheimer, Mayor of the City of Asheville, do hereby proclaim this 11th day of November 2020 as P.J. Moore, MD Day in the City of Asheville, and encourage all citizens to mark the occasion with grand revelry appropriate to this momentous day. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and the seal of the City of Asheville to be affixed this the 11th day of November 2020. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor Manheimer, and thank all of you for being here today. I appreciate the opportunity I've had to serve Western North Carolina, and I thank the people of Western North Carolina for being so good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Manheimer. There will be 3 readings from the brothers and sisters like these veteran writing group. Pete Ramsey, United States Army, Vietnam. Tommy Cannon, United States Army, Iraq. And Stacy Litzenberg, United States Army, Iraq. This group does public readings and conducts writing workshops, helping veterans in their healing journey.
Good morning. Once again, my name is Pete Ramsey. I served with the 1st Infantry Division as a tank commander and a radio telephone operator in Vietnam. I am also a descendant of Shelton Laurel. But before I begin my piece, I want to give a huge shout out to Dr. Bruce Kelly and Stephen Henderson in their efforts for providing veterans a way to finally come home. The name of my piece is I Did Not Know Your Name. I did not know your name as I watched the armored personnel carrier, after having struck the landmine, pirouette like a blue whale breaching the ocean's surface. To this day, I see you hanging there in the hatch while your tether to life itself is being cut asunder. Bernard James Henry. I did not know your names as I drive past the blast site, which is within sight of the gate of Lycée and a modicum of safety. You were at the end of a year's tour of duty in Vietnam. So close you were to seeing the faces of those you loved and who loved you. You were like lost souls caught in a blizzard for days on end, who finally get to safety only to be snatched away by the wolf of war as your hand makes contact with the doorknob. Added to that macabre twist of fate, all of you from the same town in New Hampshire. Guy Blanchette, Gaetan Bodine, Richard Gunnest, Richard Raymond, and Robert Robichaud. There are 3 body bags as well lying beside the road waiting to be picked up. They contain the remains of the unfortunate Vietnamese father, mother, and daughter killed as well. I will never know your names. Your sin was just being alongside the stricken truck. I note the ruthlessness of warfare which can befall the innocent. I did not know your names at the unexpected sound of an explosion shaking the air inside Fire Support Base Thunder 1. I sit in the mess tent eating along with several others. We only give it a passing thought. Shortly, I will know the truth that death stalks you without pity once war has you in its talons. There is not an ounce of safety anywhere here. In a nightmarish turn of events, each step so simple and inane, but when put together, they produce a lethal result. My troop captain, John Howard Guthridge, and Staff Sergeant Charles Joseph McDonald have both been lost. Followed, of course, by that absurd mental gibberish, oh, I guess it was just their time, in an attempt to describe the undescribable. I did not know your name as my lieutenant walks back toward our APC with a shaken and ashen look on his face. On the right side of his forehead is a trickle of blood. He witnessed your passing. One account says it was a booby-trapped grenade, while another says it came about as a result of the stupid actions made by a 16-year-old thrust into combat arms in order to make him grow up. Whatever the cause, suddenly you were gone, Robert Binot. I did not know your name, but am witness to the plume of black smoke and sound of screeching shrapnel. There is only a fragment of you left to be placed into dust off. That morning you had sat on the APC as the orders of the day were being outlined for your ARVN counterparts. The look on your face had a faraway appearance, and still does today when I gaze over photos of that time. Helping train the ARVN soldier who at times seemed totally disinterested was a high-risk adventure, and you did so without regard for yourself. David Edward Kuczynski. I did not know your name, but only hear of your passing via the radio headset I am wearing. Your job is the same as mine, the driver of an APC, and thus the most vulnerable to immediate death from landmines. Having seen before the results of such an encounter, I can only hope yours was an immediate departure with no suffering. Andrew B. Sexton. I did not know your name as I looked at what remained of the APC you had been driving. Once again, we share a kinship of sorts, both being drivers. I did not know your name, but in the intervening hours between seeing and hearing about your fate, we achieved a brotherhood and bond still holding strong today. The stark reality before me leaves no doubt in my mind as to the consequences of missing any hint or scent of immediate danger. You taught me to take nothing for granted and never let my thoughts stray. If I wanted to stay alive, that is. Eugene Ray Jenkins. I did not know your names as we secured the crash site of your small helicopter. The rotor blades are draped in a blackened and melted arch like a hideous crown over the disposition of your remains. Both of you had just been awarded the Silver Star for setting your craft right into the middle of a firefight to deliver plasma to badly wounded troops. Heroic and selfless, yes, but fate had other plans for Henry J. Vadd and James L. Downing. I did not know your name, but knew some who served with you. Someone higher up had thought that the cavalry would be a good place to mimic a TV show back home called The Rat Patrol. What has happened instead? Despite your efforts and good leadership, the fragility of your transport and the quick ingenuity of the enemy has brought a swift end to an officer's Hollywood romances of glory. You bring a fantasy back to reality much too expensively, Burton K. Phillips. I did not know your names as I drive you back into the village square. Your cadavers are piled up like discarded rag dolls in a makeshift bin on the front of my tank. Some of your faces are only a couple of feet from my own. Is my indifference a sign of lost humanity or a self-protection mechanism? Once dumped, maybe the villagers will know of you. You are their problem now. I did not know your names as I look over your bullet-ridden bodies. I did not know the names of your possible husbands or lovers. Maybe there are children somewhere awaiting your return. A mother or a father wondering what has become of their girl child. I did not know your names as you climb on board my track for an American-Vietnamese joint operation. I see a small, impish people who seem to be somewhat lackadaisical about what awaits in the day ahead. I watch you march off with the same attitude, some with rifles over their shoulders carried like afterthoughts. Some stroll like school kids holding each other's hand. I know that some of you will not see the day's end. I did not know your names, but I do remember your faces. I did not know all of your names as we split company on the eve of a fateful day. Voices and call signs will be the only tools of identification the next day as terror and desperation reign supreme around you. By its end and in the following days, I will come to know of Eldon Moore, Daniel L. Flynn, Everett L. Ackram, Edward E. Howard, William Bond, and J. King. And Billy Joe Schaefer, I knew your name only too well. We were brothers in arms at the very first handshake. So what can be said then of the named and the unnamed? Simply this. With absolute certainty, whether friend or foe, each embrace the desire to live and laugh with the same passion and joy as any one of us living today. And also like us, each asking of life to please remember my name.
Hello, my name is Tommy Cannon. I'm from Horseshoe, North Carolina. I served 14 years in the U.S. Army Infantry and deployed 3 times to Iraq. I'm so thankful to be able to share with all of you on such a special day. Veterans Day is a day to recognize the brave men and women who have served our great nation. We as a country should honor those who join to protect the country we love. We should be thankful for them every day. It is nice to have a day dedicated for our veterans. Think about the brave men and women who are conducting operations in a land thousands of miles away from their home and family. This is happening right now as I read this. Also think of their families who are not with them. the families are just as much in the fight to keep us safe at home. I would like to get a little selfish and tell you about the 16th Infantry Regiment. I spent 6 years with this unit and deployed with them twice to Iraq. The lineage of the 16th Infantry speaks volumes about Veterans Day. The brave men who put on their boots during the Civil War, who fought to end the separation. These men of the 16th Infantry fought for the freedom of all in the United States. The unit was once again called into action during the Spanish-American War, taking key terrain like San Juan Hill. The fighting men of the 16th Infantry would fight for the freedom in the Philippines, suffering through heat and humidity and heavy fighting. They fought to give the people there a better life without fear of their leaders. In the early 1900s, they ran down to the border with Blackjack Pershing to keep Pancho Villa and his raiders at bay. The regiment would be called once again to France during World War I. There, with minimal equipment, these brave American soldiers faced the enemy in the trenches during some of the most brutal conditions, during many battles such as the Argonne Forest. During World War II, the soldiers of the 16th Infantry fought through North Africa and stormed the beaches of Normandy. I had the honor to speak to some of these men and listen to their stories of that day. At Omaha Beach, the Rangers would give the regiment its name of Rangers. Later, during the push up to Germany, the war-torn soldiers would fight through the Battle of the Bulge. The Germans would call the 16th Infantry soldiers devils. During the Vietnam War, the regiment was again locked into battle with a new enemy. They faced the enemy in many large fights, including the Tet Offensive. The soldiers of the 16th Infantry Regiment then found themselves in a new environment in the sands of Kuwait. They made the first push into Iraq and finished the job in 100 hours. In 2003, I would cross that same line to see the sign that was put there by my predecessors. In 2003, the regiment was called upon to go to Iraq. We spent a year making the cities of Ramadi and Fallujah a safer place for the people who lived there. We would return again in 2006. The 16th Infantry Regiment has since gone to Afghanistan and also the Horn of Africa, helping the world become a safer place. I guess I am bragging a bit about this amazing infantry unit. But what I'm really bragging about is the amazing Americans who filled the ranks. Most volunteered and at times were drafted, but they are all veterans. This is the lineage of not just this regiment, but our nation. It takes brave souls to face the dangers of war, and the American soldiers, Marines, sailors, and airmen have stood at the gates and kept the wolves at bay for 245 years. So today, thank a veteran, and tomorrow and the next day, do the same. I want to say thank you to all the veterans of our great nation. Thank you for all the freedoms you have earned for me today. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Stacy Litzenberger. I'm grateful to be with all of you today, Veterans Day, a time-honored tradition to celebrate the service of our country's men and women. I'm proud to be with you today to represent women and combat veterans. I served 20 years in the Army and deployed to the Persian Gulf War with the 7th Corps out of Germany and served 27 months, 2 tours in Iraq with the 85th Combat Stress Detachment out of Fort Hood, Texas. When I got out of the military, I believed my experience was completely ordinary. I was asked to put aside all of my military phrases and experience and convert it all to civilian language. I did what I was told. I became quiet and I learned not to bring up those unique times. As I'm beginning to tell my story and share on occasion, like today, I find my military experience to be extraordinary. I did not serve as a warfighter. I never raised my weapon in defense. I never called for fire in combat or battled for my buddy's life. My mission was to save and serve the warfighter. I'm starting to embark on my own mission, telling my story from my unique and personal point of view. This endeavor has been with the heartfelt, genuine, and amazing writing group, brothers and sisters like these. They have shown me how important it is to communicate, build, and keep bonds with my fellow soldiers and community. Today, I suggest that during these times of COVID, fellow soldiers and veterans, let's all take time to tell a tale or two, as our stories are our gifts. This story that I'm going to read is one of the first that I publicly read with brothers and sisters like these. In September of 2005, the U.S. Army was going out into the rural areas of Iraq and conducting humanitarian missions. These are called MedCap missions and are conducted by the battalion and aid stations and the Civil Affairs Unit. I was invited along as the units knew me as an occupational therapist in the Combat Stress Detachment and my work at the Combat Support Hospital. My mission as an OT was to fit a 12-year-old boy with polio in a wheelchair. His dad wanted surgery to fix him, and our team explained why this was not possible. In these rural villages, the civilians had no real knowledge of medical issues. I did the wheelchair fitting and taught the father how to transfer him. For 12 years, this young boy had been carried everywhere by his father. I asked our leadership if I could wander around outside of the large home to look around. I was given permission, and I started taking pictures of the children playing outside, and the village started gathering, catching glimpses of us. I mean, we were quite a sight. We had our Humvees all locked and loaded, 50 caliber weapons, guards, and a team of devoted medical providers and other professionals ready to provide a full day of medical assistance. I was dressed in full battle rattle, consisting of my helmet, protective vest, M16, and a full combat load of ammo. It was at least 125 degrees outside, and I was soaking wet with sweat. Soon, the group of gathered Iraqi women motioned to me to come over to them, and next, I was welcomed into their kitchen, the common area. They were so interested in me. Once seated inside, they motioned to take my camera, and they looked it over and started taking pictures. I imagine they had never seen or used a digital camera before. Then, true to Middle Eastern tradition, they started wanting to give me a whole list of items. They were super curious if I was really a female. Fortunately, they did not want proof. I figured I could give them answers to their questions, and so I left to get the male Iraqi translator. I asked him if he could go into their living area, and he said yes. Well, with the women, we answered all of their questions, and I left with only one gift. When we left the room, the translator kept saying, "Thank you," over and over again in Arabic. "Shukran, shukran." I finally asked him why. He explained how as an Iraqi male, he was never allowed in the female area. How with me, he was seen as a translator and he could help me out. He was so pleased. I joined my Army team to eat at a big plastic white table and chairs. Our guards came in to take quick turns to eat and were grateful for a few minutes out of their hot, heavy gear. The meal was again traditional Middle Eastern, an entire cooked lamb with rice on huge platters. The Iraqi men served us by grabbing huge fistfuls of food and literally dumping it onto our plates. While we ate, they masterfully grabbed more food and again threw it onto our plates. There was no saying no. I had rice in my hair from frying food as they broke the lamb apart. The grease splattered in our faces. We were all laughing. Once we were completely full, the Iraqi men sat on the floor to eat their meal. As we left for the day, I enjoyed my role helping a young child become more independent and meeting the Iraqi women and the girls. I hoped that coming to the village would inspire the girls to dream for more, to see firsthand how women serve proudly in the United States Army and sit with the men. Oh, and my gift from the Iraqi women was a really ornate bra.
Thank you, brothers and sisters like these, for sharing your powerful stories. Also, thank you for attending our ceremony today. Hopefully, we can meet again next year at Veterans Day at the Charles George VA Medical Center. Please stay well and be safe.